A few days ago, I published a review of the Garmin Fenix 8 on this channel. Its release was highly anticipated as the Fenix series in general is among the best and most popular products that Garmin offer. However, the Fenix 8 comes with a hefty price tag starting at $1,000, so making a well-considered decision is crucial. But it's not just a matter of deciding whether to buy the watch or not, you can also choose between various different models. The key question here is, do you want an MIP display or do you want an AMOLED display? And that's exactly what we'll be focusing on in today's video. The Fenix 8 is available in the familiar MIP display version and for the first time in an AMOLED version as well. Both have their pros and cons, which we'll delve into in this video. A quick note, I won't be going over all the features of the watch here in this video. For that, I recommend checking out my detailed review of the Fenix 8, which I've linked in the video description. Here we'll focus specifically on the differences between the AMOLED and MIP versions, along with their respective pros and cons. So let's dive right in, have fun. Let's first address the most fundamental question of this video. What are the differences between AMOLED and MIP? Fenix watches have always been equipped with MIP displays. MIP stands for memory and pixel, and here we are talking about so-called transflective displays. This means that they don't emit light by themselves, but instead just reflect their ambient light. As a result, these displays can appear darker in low light environments such as indoors, but are especially bright and easy to read outdoors, particularly in direct sunlight. Since sports watches are primarily designed for outdoor use, these displays are well suited for this purpose. Moreover, because these displays don't emit their own light, they are very energy efficient. We'll discuss battery life in detail shortly. AMOLED displays, on the other hand, emit light actively on their own. The A in AMOLED, by the way, also stands for active. This means that these displays are significantly brighter, more colorful and have higher contrast than MIP displays, which is particularly noticeable indoors. However, the MIP version of the Fenix 8 also has a backlight feature, which makes it considerably brighter. The resolution is also quite different. For example, the two larger AMOLED versions have a resolution of 454 x 454 pixels, while the MIP variants have 260 x 260 and 280 x 280 pixels. In the past, sports watches, unlike smartwatches, avoided AMOLED displays, so Garmin's earlier Fenix, Forerunner and Vivo Active models were all equipped with MIP displays. This was because the AMOLED technology wasn't fully developed at that time, making it nearly impossible to read in the sun, for example. However, this has improved year by year, and now AMOLED displays are also easy to read in sunlight. If you're not standing directly in the sun but are instead in the shade, in a forest, or if it's cloudy or just darker outside in general, AMOLED displays are easier to read than MIP displays. But under direct sunlight, MIP displays are definitely easier to read. For example, since last year I have both the Fenix 7 Pro with its MIP display as well as the Epix Pro with its AMOLED display. In everyday use I mostly prefer the Epix Pro, but for outdoor activities in the sun I always preferred the Fenix 7 Pro, like when I climbed the Kilimanjaro in Africa. However, ultimately, which display technology you prefer is a matter of personal taste and depends mainly on how you intend to use the watch. So those were the basic differences between MIP displays and AMOLED displays, but now let's take a closer look at how these differences affect everyday use. As mentioned, the AMOLED display is very bright and colorful. However, some people find it annoying to constantly have a blinking, flashing watch in their field of view. Moreover, this also puts a significant strain on the battery. Therefore, the watch in the AMOLED version automatically turns off after a few seconds when not in use. However, you can also use an always on mode where the display doesn't go completely dark but only dims, so you can always read it. You can fully activate the display again by tapping it, pressing one of the buttons or moving your wrist. The wrist movement is usually recognized very reliably, but occasionally it doesn't work immediately, which some people find a bit annoying. You can set whether you want to use the always on mode and adjust how many seconds it takes for the display to go dark or dim, as well as the general brightness. So when talking about AMOLED, it's referred to as always on, but the display isn't fully on all the time. In contrast with the MIP version, the display is indeed always in the same state. It's always on, except for the backlight. So if you are in a dark room, the display is also dark. If you are in a bright environment, the display is also bright. This also means that in complete darkness, the MIP display is not visible at all because there is no light to reflect. So although the display is always on, you can't see it in this condition. Then when you rotate your wrist, tap the display or press the upper left button, the backlight turns on. On the other hand, the Fenix 8 AMOLED display is super bright and high contrast during nighttime use, which could be considered distracting in the dark. You can counteract this by reducing the brightness, and there is an exclusive feature called the redshift mode, specifically designed for nighttime use. In this mode, everything on the display is only shown in black and red, which is easier on the eyes. You can also disable gesture activation so the display doesn't turn on when you move while sleeping. Another difference in everyday use between AMOLED and MIP is noticeable in navigation. Both watches are equipped with the same navigation features, and there are a lot of them. And again, for all of the details in this regard, you should definitely check out my in-depth review of the Fenix 8, where I'm talking about all the features of the watch. I have linked this video in the video description below. But now, back to the navigation differences. When it comes to navigation, both watches generally provide Garmin's Topo Active maps, which contain a lot of information and are very good for navigation, especially in outdoor environments. Due to its display, the Fenix 8 AMOLED can deliver even more details. It can display more colors, shadows, and overall depth in color. As a result, more details and information can be shown, and the map looks more natural and realistic because the colors are better represented. Additionally, the route is easier to see due to the higher contrast. Overall, navigation and map display are simply more attractive and richer in information on the AMOLED version. The ability to display more information is, of course, also due to the higher resolution. However, I have noticed that the AMOLED version takes slightly longer to load the map. So if we zoom in on the map simultaneously, this version takes about 1 second longer to load. This is likely because more information is displayed and the watch needs more time to process it. But this is not a significant difference either. A minor point which I still want to mention as well is the pre-installed watch faces. Both have nearly the same selection, but the AMOLED version can display more details and a higher depth of information. This makes the watch faces themselves often the same, but the AMOLED model might have additional patterns, shading, or other elements that make them slightly more appealing. Additionally, there are some watch faces exclusive to the AMOLED version, but otherwise you can also download more watch faces via the Garmin Connect IQ store on both watches. Garmin certainly doesn't make it easy to choose the right watch. As always, there are tons of different models to choose from. As you probably know by now, you have the MIP version and you have the AMOLED version. But that's not everything you can choose, there are also various sizes in both versions. However, there is a small catch. The AMOLED version is available in 3 case sizes, 43, 47 and 51mm, just like previous Fenix watches. The first 2 variants are 13.8mm thick, while the larger one is 14.7mm. For reference, I personally use the medium 47mm model. The MIP version, on the other hand, only comes in the 2 larger sizes, 47 and 51mm, which means there is no smaller 43mm model. This is particularly frustrating for people with smaller wrists who prefer this display technology. It doesn't affect me personally, as I actually opted for the larger 51mm version in this case. With the AMOLED version, you can also choose between a sapphire or non-sapphire variant. The sapphire model features a sapphire crystal display, while the non-sapphire version uses Gorilla Glass. Sapphire glass is a bit more resistant to scratches and breaks than Gorilla Glass, but honestly, after testing countless sports watches over the years, I haven't noticed a significant difference. Gorilla Glass is also very durable. In the sapphire version, however, both the bezel and the back of the case are made of titanium, whereas the non-sapphire variant uses stainless steel. Again, titanium is more robust and high quality, but stainless steel is also very sturdy. Titanium is also lighter though, and here you can see all the weight specs for the different models at a glance. The MIP version of the Fenix 8 only comes in the sapphire version, meaning it always features both sapphire glass and a titanium build. Even though titanium is the lighter of the 2 materials, these watches are slightly heavier than the AMOLED models because they are thicker. As mentioned, the 47mm AMOLED version is 13.8mm thick and the 51mm version is 14.7mm, while the MIP variants are 15.2 and 15.4mm thick respectively. This difference is definitely noticeable. The MIP versions are considerably bulkier and do stand out on the wrist. Another significant difference is the availability of solar technology. Previous models like the Fenix 6, Fenix 7 and Fenix 7 Pro already featured this technology, which uses a built-in solar charging lens on the display to extend battery life. Unfortunately, there is no solution yet for using AMOLED and solar at the same time, so only the MIP versions of the Fenix Fenix 8 come with the solar ring. With the Fenix 7 Pro, there was a solar ring around the display as well as a thin solar lens over the actual display. This caused the display to appear somewhat milky or hazy, slightly affecting readability under the solar lens. Garmin has addressed this with the Fenix 8 by only keeping the solar lens around the display and not over the display itself. As a result, readability is slightly better now with a brighter display and richer colors. Yet, the battery life is said to have improved compared to the Fenix 7 Pro. This is because the solar ring around the display has become wider. This change also affects the display sizes. The AMOLED version features a 1.3-inch display for the 43mm variant and a 1.4-inch display for both the 47 and 51mm versions. While the MIP version also has a 1.4-inch display for the larger 51mm version, the medium 47mm option only comes with a 1.3-inch display. Therefore, my 47mm AMOLED Fenix 8 and 51mm MIP Fenix 8 both have equally large displays. Had I chosen the MIP version in 47mm, the display would have been slightly smaller. And as a side note, the solar ring around the display of the Fenix 7 Pro appeared in a brownish red tone, while on the Fenix 8 it's now simply black. This means it's no longer obvious that there is a solar lens at all, it just looks like a normal part of the display. But let's be honest, how much does the solar feature actually benefit the battery life? And how big is the difference between MIP displays and AMOLED displays in general? This is what we'll talk about now. Aside from the readability and all the differences we've already talked about, the biggest difference between MIP displays and AMOLED displays is definitely the battery life. MIP displays, like I said, are much more energy efficient than AMOLED displays, which is why they are known for their better battery lives. And here Garmin provides various figures for all the different models and all the different scenarios, which we won't cover in full detail in this video. In smartwatch mode, the larger AMOLED variant can last up to 29 days, whereas with the always-on mode, it's up to 13 days. The 51mm MIP version, according to Garmin, can last up to 30 days or up to 48 days with solar. Garmin assumes 3 hours outdoors at 50,000 lux, which is easily achievable in summer and also realistic on clear winter days. The differences are even more significant with the medium 47mm version. The AMOLED model can last up to 16 days or 7 days with always on, while the MIP model offers up to 21 days or 28 days with solar. Interestingly, the 51mm AMOLED variant is said to last up to 62 hours in GPS mode with multiband, which is even longer than the MIP version's 52 hours, but that's with the display not being continuously on, and the MIP version still offers more with solar. So overall, as expected, the MIP version has better battery life figures than the AMOLED version, but let's see how these figures actually hold up in practice. First of all, I used both watches during my football training, which lasted about 90 minutes. This took place in the evening, so the sun had already set for the day, meaning the solar feature couldn't really come into play. I also used multiband GPS on both watches. The Fenix 8 MIP lost 2.61% per hour, which means it would last about 38 hours, while the AMOLED version lost 3%, meaning it would last around 33 hours. Then I went for a walk with both watches, again using multiband GPS, but most importantly I used navigation, which is pretty much the biggest battery drain. On this day the sun was shining, so the solar ring could do its job. And that paid off. The AMOLED version lost 5.45% battery per hour, which extrapolates to about 18 hours, while the MIP Solar version lost 3.27% and would therefore last around 30.5 hours. After that I went for another one, but this time without navigation. I also used the auto select mode this time, where the watches automatically switch between multiband and regular GPS depending on signal conditions, which is more battery friendly than constantly using multiband. Here the AMOLED model lost 2.67% per hour, leading to about 37.5 hours, while the MIP version lost 1.5%, giving it nearly 67 hours. In the gym, no GPS data is recorded, so the battery consumption is lower, and here it was 1.5% or 66 hours for the AMOLED model and 1.2% or 83 hours for the MIP model. So overall, as expected, the MIP version lasts longer in all scenarios than the AMOLED version. This is especially noticeable in the sun and generally in outdoor settings. Overall, this comparison is not entirely fair, of course, as I have a 47mm and 51mm model, but yeah, you can roughly follow Garmin's specifications and expect a few more days of battery life with the MIP version. Alright, so what can we conclude about the AMOLED and MIP versions of the Garmin Fenix 8? Which variant is the better choice? As always, this isn't an easy question to answer and really depends on your personal preferences. The AMOLED display is generally much brighter, more colorful and especially more pleasant to look at indoors or in darker environments. It also provides more detail, for example when navigating. However, some people might find it annoying that the display turns off or dims after a few seconds of inactivity and needs to be woken up again. The MIP display on the other hand shines in bright sunlight and is a bit easier to read outdoors compared to the AMOLED display. Many people also find it less distracting since it doesn't light up as much and the battery life is better with this model, especially with the solar technology. It's just a bit disappointing that there is no 43mm MIP variant. So which of the two versions do you prefer and why? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you found this video helpful or interesting, you could really support me and my work here by giving this video a quick thumbs up, and if you don't want to miss any more reviews or comparison videos like this in the future, you should definitely consider subscribing to this channel. But for now, thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.